Welcome to the Monday, August 19th, 2024 board meeting. This meeting is now officially called to order. Will you please stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any public comments? Okay, we're going to go right into the agenda. And the first one is 2.1 amendments to the agenda. We're going to have an amendment to the agenda. It's going to be 5.1A, FAMU articulation agreement. And we have an item that we're pulling from the agenda, MCC as supplements. Board members, do you all have any amendments to pull, to add, or anything to pull?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
I move to adopt the agenda.
I second.
It has been moved by Mr. Carroll, second by Mrs. Knight, that we adopt the agenda. All in favor, please show your hands. 5-0, Mrs. Bishop. Okay. Number 3 was public comments. There are none. No public comments. Item number 4, consent agenda items. There are 4.1 minutes, sports schedules, and fall band schedule.
I move to approve the consent agenda items.
A second.
It has been moved by Mrs. Gibson, second by Mr. Carroll, that we approve the consent agenda items. All in favor, please show your hands. 5-0, Mrs. Bishop. Item 5, items for individual consideration. 5.1, personnel changes, Mr. Keatingworth.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This evening, all we have is one instructional employee that we're asking your approval for, and then we have 2 down at the bottom. One that's at the central, that was ended up being a no-show, so he backed out, and then our second is a retirement. And that's all that I have coming before you tonight. We'll have more for the next meeting.
I move to approve the personnel changes.
Second.
It has been moved by Mr. Carroll, second by Mrs. Gibson, that we approve the personnel changes. Questions? All in favor, please show your hands. 5-0, Mrs. Bishop. 5.1A, family articulation agreement. Ms. Joseph?
Okay, Madam Chair, we have an articulation agreement with FAMU. This is our second or third year we've had it with FAMU. One thing to be noted, this is a 2-year articulation agreement rather than the usual 1-year articulation agreement.
Okay, do we have any questions, comments?
Madam Chair, I move to accept the articulation agreement with FAMU.
A second.
It has been moved by Mrs. Knight, second by Mr. Carroll, that we approve the family articulation agreement. All in favor? 5-0, Ms. Bishop. 5.2, financial report, Ms. Rose. And Mrs. Rose, you're going to be right there for 5.3 and 5.4.
It's the Rose Show tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, we will go through the financial report now, understanding that we're still closing books out, so we have some information we do not have that's not on there this time. So for the first page, which will always be your general fund, I just want you to note that most of the revenue that we have this month has come just from our FTE payments, from the FEFP reports. So we took in 1.25 million, and we have paid out 926. This is lower because you have less employees in the month of July to be paying. So we're doing okay there. I cannot drill down to exactly what that looks like in as far as the fund balance is concerned. We're still working those details out. But when we start working those details out, when we start setting aside and reserving money in the fund balance, just keep in mind that we're going to have to reserve money for the hurricane, both hurricanes, and we're going to still be reserving money for the cost of insurance going up. I will say that our Health Insurance Committee has been working very actively with Brown and Brown, and they started with an 8% increase, which is comparable to what we had last year, but Ms. Montrell has been able to bring them down to about a 5% increase.
Okay.
So it's still kind of for a single person on the most expensive plan, it means a difference of around $40. And the middle plan is about $20, and the low plan is about $40. So we're still looking over that, but just to give you an idea, we are making a little bit of progress to help our employees save from this. We are always going to have an increase, but at least this one is not going to be as drastic as we've seen. So I'll move to Fund 2000. Fund 2000, again, is our debt service fund. We haven't taken any revenues in yet, and we haven't had any expenditures out of it. The beginning of July, we had a payment that went out for $217,000. We had money going out to, actually it was around $250-some thousand that went out to pay for. We have 3 more years left on that loan that we took out for the bond that we took out for the high school renovation. So that payment always comes in right around the 1st of July. It pays for the prior year.
Is that the $252,609?
Yes.
Okay.
That includes the interest on it as
Okay.
well. And we do get a little bit of relief on the interest from the IRS. We do get a tax credit for some of that because of the type of bond it is. We don't know if that will continue with any new bonding, but it has been in place ever since we did the renovation. Okay, and Fund 3000. Okay, we have no new revenues coming in because we haven't drawn any tax revenues down. And we had a few expenses, about $24,000 worth of expenses. We did meet with CRA, Clemens, Rutherford, and Associate this morning. They do have a proposal for us, 535-page proposal. And we're working through that, but we met with them this morning to make sure what this proposal looks like. It's for the chillers at the high school and the chiller at the central school and the energy control systems at both schools. It's right in the neighborhood of $2.995 million. So they are going to have a bidders conference that's going to be here on the 28th. It's not mandatory, but they will have a bidders conference. And then they will have the bid due about on the 11th of September. We will be presenting whatever the choice is of contractors on the 16th of September, and then we'll do the PO so that we can get about, we're thinking between the CO and DS, the capital outlay and debt service money, and the ARP money, we should be able to find $2 million of that $3 million out of those 2 funding pots. So that's our goal right now, to work on that. Fund 410, food service. I'd like to have better news for you, but right now when we're closing it out, it looks like they would be in debt, well, actually just in arrears, I guess, for $147,000. So we are going to, now keep in mind, some of that is the equipment grant. They bought equipment this year. They're not going to get reimbursed for that equipment until October. So when it crosses years, it looks worse than what it really is. But even so, we're operating a little bit at a deficit in that program. We don't like to do that, but Iris is doing all she can to help get some funding, creative ideas. She just landed a contract for about $200,000 that is going to be providing us a lot of fruits and vegetables in individual size so that we can use those in addition to our own. So it will help her reduce her costs for food this year a little bit. So we're hoping that that will help offset this deficit. So keep in mind, we're doing what we can. Let me see, 4,200. I did send you, I did tell you that that was way off, the way Skyward was kicking it together and doubling everything. So you should have in front of you a separate page. That's the page that should be in your budget. So we haven't taken in any money on, out of flags right now because flags just reopened. That's the Florida grants management system, how we pull money down when we get reimbursed. So we haven't taken any money, but we are paying a few people out of those federal grants, so we've got a little bit of expenses out of there at $35,000. And 450, this is the big pot of ARP. This is where we're hoping to get about 1.2 million for the chiller project. If we can get more out of it, we will try. And let's see, we had no new revenues coming in yet because flags has just reopened, but we had 47,000 that we have waiting for reimbursement. And then in the smaller pot of ARP, we're trying desperately to add expenses to those so we can close out a lot of those smaller projects. So we have right now about 81,000 pending, but no revenue yet because we haven't been able to get into flags. So I would ask, unless there's questions, I would ask that you accept the budget.
Okay, it's been recommended that we accept the financial report.
I move to approve the financial report.
A second.
It has been moved by Mrs. Gibson, second by Mrs. Knight, that we approve the financial report. Questions?
Ms. Rose,
Sure.
on the general fund thing, one of these little red notes down here about.
The ones I want to scare you with?
When you say that new legislation for safety requires each school to have a guardhouse and somebody to man, that's already been approved?
The legislation is in place right now. Now, there are some exceptions to that, and they are trying to figure out across the state, not just in Madison County, how we can do that and be able to man those guard shacks and get infrastructure built and all of that. How can we do it in a more economical fashion? Because this is an unfunded mandate. So we are working with the Department of, the Office of Safe Schools, and we are working with that division to try and figure out if there's exceptions. I do know we need a little bit of fencing at Greenville. We need a little bit of fencing at Pinetta, and some gap fencing at,
They did the fencing at Pinetta the other day.
okay, pardon me?
They did some fencing at Pinetta the other day.
Yes, that was from the hurricane, but these are more fencing to keep them out of those, restrict traffic to go into only one area. If you have a gate, that you gate it, then that gate is supposed to be manned. So now we're trying to get them to make an exception so that we can, like at the high school, you have that gate, you don't have any infrastructure out there for a guardhouse. So we're trying to get them to agree that if we have something a little more secure at the high school itself to keep them out in different areas, that would work instead of having to have a manned area in the
What
front.
about the central school? They got 2 gates.
That's also, in the near future, I'm gonna have Mr. Williams come and explain those new laws, because right now, as it is, unless we have put in that for a waiver, Central School needs a guard check.
1 or 2?
You can always lock the other gate.
As long as the gates are locked, but the problem is then you can't get the buses and you can't get the parents in,
You have
that
parents
You
kind
can
of
on
unlock
each
the
side
gate,
of
but
the
you'll
school.
have someone standing there while the gates are unlocked. But we're putting in a waiver, and I'll let Mr. Williams explain all the details about these new
I
laws.
got you.
So we won't have to piecemeal it too.
It's a good piece of legislation, but trying to pay for it in
That's
these times is just, it's
No
unrealistic for small
Well, I
districts.
mean,
It's been
I-
mandated,
I
but no
agree-
money's been
I
set down.
agree, I agree, I mean, it's a safety, I understand all that. But them cats make all them decisions up there without
Sending the
funding
dollars to
anything.
pay for it.
But if we
It's
don't
true
do
that.
it, we're gonna have to
Okay.
request a waiver. And Mr. Williams have already put in several waivers, but I'll let him come and explain that to you.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mr. Carroll?
Yes, ma'am.
Now we'll take the vote. All in favor, please show your hands. 5-0, Mrs. Bishop. Okay.
That's giving all of us heartburns.
Okay, 5.3, blanket purchase orders for 24-25.
Okay, this was more going to be an informational item for you because what we're trying to put in place is we're trying to encumber the money at the beginning of the year so that we know really where our spending has to be so that we don't over budget and give discretionary pots freedom to use that dollar when we know we have to pay it, like for the electric bill, for the food service, for the milk. So this is just to show you some of the blanket purchase orders that have been done already. Now, if there was a purchase order that was done last year that crosses multiple years, it's closed out in year one and rolls into year two at the same amount. So that's not a new PO. It's just a PO that crossed school years, fiscal years. For example, I know you have a Synergy one in there. That's one that the board voted on and approved last year. We are still working on payments out of that project, so it had to roll forward into this year. But it's really an informational, so you can see where we're doing. We wanted, usually this happens at the beginning of the school year. We have a lot of very big POs that are going out to encumber this money. So we didn't want you to be left out. Most of these you've approved in some fashion already through the board agendas.
And a lot of these POs, blanket POs, they explain that that restricted funds, when she said, I've got a restricted fund balance, the money is there, but it already has been accounted for. And if it's trying to be open and transparent with you, it may look like we have a lot of money, but we have encumbered this money for certain expenses we know that will occur.
So, Mr. Reeves, are we go, she said it was for information purposes only. Are we going to vote on it, or are we just going to accept it as information purposes?
I think you were just accepting the information.
Okay.
And, because I think the superintendent's saying y'all have already approved it, this is just showing you what, the invoices they've generated based on past approvals, I think. Is that-
Yes, that's what it is. And as
Okay.
we get more, I will bring them to you, so we will let you know these big bills that we get, that we are encumbering.
Okay.
Okay, board members, you're satisfied with that?
Yeah, I'll get with you individually because I do have some questions on a couple of them, but
Okay.
I'll get with you individually.
Would the board prefer to see this as an informational item instead of on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
We weren't sure, so that's, we want to make sure we had it covered.
Okay, 5.4, contract with Synergy
Okay.
for disaster services.
As you know, we had a second hurricane. So now we're going to be working on a second claim. And so in order to have Synergy continue working with us for Adalia and to continue to work for us through Debbie, it's an amendment to their original contract that covers their services for what they're doing to get ready for our FEMA reimbursements. So it's an up to account because we don't know how much we're going to be able to claim, how many hours it's going to take. We're finding all kinds of things, and Ms. Hutcherson can chime in if she wants, but we're finding new things every day with the Debbie claims. So we're trying to establish where we're going to go, what we have to do, what can we claim. We had some insurance adjusters out this last week, and it looks like if it's any kind of pre-existing or deferred maintenance, that they're not going to cover it. So we've got some things that are bouncing back and forth with the insurance right now. So the one piece is for the project management. That would be reimbursable through the FEMA project. The other piece is related, and I put this in an email. I know it was a long one, but I put it in an email to you. The other is Emergency Advantage says we are not going to reach our deductibles, and so they are not going to do any project management. And for the things that we still have from Medallia, we have to finish those as permanent projects, so we don't have the capability internally to manage those projects.
We don't have the
So-
manpower.
Yeah, so that second one, again, another up to, is to be able to have project manager help us get these things done. Because if we don't do them, when the next storm hits, then we won't have any insurance coverage because we didn't do what we knew was wrong in the first one, which is kind of some of the place we're at with this one. So we're trying to make sure that doesn't happen. That would be something that can be paid out for operations out of the community disaster loan.
Okay. Do I have approval?
Miss Hutchison, do you need to say anything, or you good? Okay.
Unless y'all have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions? May I have a motion for approval, please?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the contract with Synergy for Disaster Services.
Second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Thompson, second by Mrs. Knight, that we approve the contract with Synergy for Disaster Services.
And actually,
There's two
there's
of
two
them.
work orders.
There's two contracts.
There's one for the disaster itself, and then there's one for project management.
So I do need to just,
Did you mean both of them?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's-
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor, please show your hand. 5-0, Mrs. Bishop.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 6, other items of interest. Madam Superintendent?
Okay, Madam Chair, I've got a few things I need to talk about. Last week, we had road closures south of I-10 between 14 and 255. We were informed again that they'll close again this week. We are picking up kids, but the buses cannot go down the dirt road, and the parents are bringing them out to the hard road to get them to school. So that's working well. I haven't had any complaints about it. It's not a district thing, but it's a safety thing for the buses. And a little update from the remediation contractor. Madison County High is 80% complete. All carpet has been removed from affected floors and glue scraped. Field house affected flooring is being removed and is 75% complete. Gymnasium is 50% complete. Ceiling has been cleaned and disinfected, but need to be encapsulated due to the staining. Encapsulated is ongoing. At Pinell Elementary School, it's 85%. All demo has been completed. Cleaning all affected wall cavities is at about 90% complete, and all open cavities has been sealed with fire-rated poly. And all affected ceiling tiles have been removed and replaced. In addition to Pinetta, they closed it up with poly, but we saw that was a fallacy because you can see between bathroom tonight. Right now, they're working at Pinetta and they're enclosing them with plywood so you can't see from one bathroom to another. And that's all the bathrooms that's out there. At Greenville Elementary, all phases of demos and cleaning have been completed. Fire-rated poly has been used to seal all open cavities. And 3/4 inch plywood will be installed tonight to all affected restrooms in Pinetta. Okay, live body count for today, and it's running about the same. At the high school, we have 495 students. At Central School, we had 727 students. They also had a small outbreak of COVID at Central School. Greenville had 100 students today. Lee had 162. Pinetta had 120. Okay, teaching situation. At the high school, we've got 2 long-term subs. We're looking for, we need 2 teachers at the high school. At Central School, we've got 2 vacancies and 4 long-term subs. That means we have, is that 6 vacancies or 4 vacancies? We've got 4 vacancies, and 2 of them are being filled by long-term subs, and we're still looking for 2 other people. So we're looking for 4 teachers completely, but immediately we need 2 people Lee has a long-term sub, we're looking for a teacher. And there's one vacancy at Greenville also. We need one bus driver, one bus manager, and a question mark about a mechanic. That's our employment status as of right now.
Thank you.
Okay?
Mr. Reeves?
No, ma'am, unless you have questions.
I don't. Board members, questions for Mr. Reeves? Mr. Carroll?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Mrs. Thompson?
I would just like to say welcome back to all of our students and staff. I hope you all had a wonderful first week of school. And just thank you for everything that you do.
Mrs. Knight?
I too just want to say welcome back. We appreciate all your hard work in getting started and trying to start the school year and make it as normal as possible for the students based on our circumstances. I just also want to make a comment on the two new SRO vehicles. I am absolutely loving these new vehicles and the new wraps that we have going on. I just saw the autism vehicle this afternoon and the cowboy vehicle. So if you haven't seen them, go take a look at them. They're pretty awesome. So I wanted to just bring some awareness to that. So thank you.
Okay, can I follow up with her? Those wraps are being paid for by the sheriff's department, monies that was confiscated through drug bust, not by the school system.
Very good.
Mrs. Gibson?
I'd just like to say that I visited all 5 of our schools today, and I talked to each of the principals. I was very impressed with the looks of the school. Everyone was very positive, and I think we're off to a super year. Thank you all.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, I move to
Yes, ma'am.
adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry. You didn't
Oh,
go.
I just want to thank everybody for everything that you do, as always. Thank you. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
All right. Adjourn.